judge a political party not by the volume but its vision. People are desperate to be liberated from ancestral poverty, social chaos, amateurish state administration, widespread corruption, culture of scavenging on Western leftovers. In their conscious and subconscious mind, people are dreaming of an omnipotent political leader who will magically bring about peace and prosperity in their society. The ordinary people of the world may not have a clear conception of how a developed, prosperous, and happy society may be like. Hollow propaganda of Anglo-American West tried to convince that it is the statistics of rise and fall in growth rate, per capita income, GDP, balance of payment, etc. that determines whether a given society is achieving economic prosperity. There may be some truth in these theories, but it is not necessarily the only truth. Another valid parameter may suggest that socio-economic prosperity of a given society is determined to what extent a political leadership has been able to develop a disciplined workforce of workers, peasants, and intellectuals. To what extent that workforce has been mobilized to provide minimum political, social, and physical security for most members of society. In brief, it can also be stated that the existence of a disciplined workforce is the prerequisite of genuine social prosperity and development. The standard of schooling, and healthcare facilities, how accessible these services are, how disciplined their workers, peasants, and intellectuals are, how organized and efficient the municipal and state and the central governments are, determines the degree of development and prosperity of any given society, irrespective of the statistics of growth rate, per capita income, GDP, balance of payment, etc. These might suggest installation of this kind of administration and social transformation requires a unique kind of political leadership that may or may not make use of so-called parliamentary democracy. Where political parties change but set economic policies are not changeable. Over the last 75 years, India hasn't seen this kind of political leadership. Since the time of transformation of power in 1947, people of India has never experienced a leadership that considered the human resources of India as the most precious wealth of the nation, that must be conditioned and productively utilized to bring about inclusive growth throughout the nation. Over the last 77 years, all those political leadership that passed by the doorstep of power could never be expected to possess any thoughts on the mechanism of utilizing human resources as the means to achieve true potential of Indian nation. Why not? Because it is an established fact that of all the elected members of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and Vidhan Sabha, every second one is a hardened criminal and every third one is a semi-illiterate. How can such elements be expected to work in the interest of the entire nation? It doesn't mean either that the so-called educated intellectual class is more likely to turn the current privations of underclass into heavenly bliss. Those who are recognized as educated and intellectual class, for example, the journalists, who are considered a powerful pillar of parliamentary democracy, the bureaucracy, judiciary, etc., are under full control of the criminal political class. This corrupt and rotten social system is being protected by the members of the intellectual class. It might seem weird that in the year 2014, a tiny little political unit named Aam Aadmi Party encroached into the power structure of the regional government of Delhi territory. Soon after forming government, this political unit confidently declared their plans, programs, and ideology, which people of India was waiting to hear for the last 77 years. Founder of the party, Sri Arvind Kejriwal, while addressing the youth, explains how seriously their party takes education as the means to shape up the youth as a bold step towards nation building. Very special thought process is required of a chief minister or ministers in charge of education to support students with their academic preparation. Since this narrative is in Hindi, I don't think its English translation will be of advantage. Let's take a listen to this statement.
ताकि युवा अपने सपने पूरे कर सके। कई बच्चे बहुत इंटेलिजेंट होते हैं, अच्छे कॉलेज में एडमिशन भी मिल जाता है, पर पढ़ाई के पैसे नहीं होते। ऐसे बच्चों के लिए हम लोगों ने पैसों का इंतजाम करवाया। कई बच्चे IAS IPS बनना चाहते हैं, पर अच्छी कोचिंग के पैसे नहीं होते। उनके लिए हम लोगों ने अच्छी कोचिंग का इंतजाम किया। अब हम एक स्पोर्ट्स यूनिवर्सिटी बना रहे हैं। यहाँ आप जैसे युवाओं को ओलंपिक्स के लिए तैयार करेंगे। देखना, एक दिन भारत ओलंपिक्स में ढेरों मेडल लेके आएगा। एक स्किल यूनिवर्सिटी बना रहे हैं हम लोग। यहाँ आपको अपना बिजनेस शुरू करने की ट्रेनिंग दी जाएगी।
Ever since Aam Aadmi Party formed government in Delhi and then onwards in Punjab, they are persistently declaring their well thought out plans of drastically overhauling the near non-existent government services in these areas of healthcare, education, job creation, dignified means of livelihood, civilized municipal life, women's security, etc. Above all, their stands on eliminating corruption from government services. Theirs were not just verbal statement of ideology, but genuine efforts were made to implement each of their plans in real life setting. Any government of the center with sense of culture, dignity and patriotism should have welcomed such effort with applaud, support and cooperation. Instead, the current government of BJP at the center mobilized ED, Enforcement Directorate, CBI, Central Bureau of Investigation, Income Tax, High Court, Police, and above all, their patronized mainstream media to stop and sabotage all social projects initiated by Aam Aadmi Party government. Used and encouraged the media to mobilize public opinion against Aam Aadmi Party, as if those were not enough. Under shamelessly fabricated plots, took the main leadership of Aam Aadmi Party, including the sitting chief minister, into custody that is unprecedented in the 77 years of post-independent history of India. It doesn't need any special inquiry to notice that acts of the central government against Aam Aadmi Party are the plans and designs of criminal minds. It is understandable why, after all, the government at the center is being run by the BJP, where every second of their elected member is a hardened criminal and every third one is a semi-illiterate. People elect a government to look after the interest of the general population, precisely what the leadership of AAP has been trying to accomplish, meaning installation of world-class schools, schooling, ensure high-quality public healthcare, utilities, transportation, etc. These basic public facilities should have been installed 77 years ago. But due to incompetence and corruption in the government, these were never accomplished. Now, a new government like Aam Aadmi Party is making honest and competent effort to accomplish these tasks. Instead of support, cooperation and encouragement, their plans and programs of public works are being stalled and sabotaged. Central government agencies are being unconstitutionally engaged to defame, harass, and even incarcerate the leadership of Aam Aadmi government. 3 important members of the Aam Aadmi Party have been taken into custody on criminally fabricated charges. All 3 key members have been languishing in prison for the last 2 years. The central government-sponsored powerful mainstream media are dutifully spewing fabricated lies to mobilize public opinion in favor of their criminal conspiracies. Misuse of power of the central government has reached a point leading to an unprecedented situation where a sitting minister, Mr. Kejriwal himself, has been languishing in prison for the last several months. Such acts of political gangsterism have been without precedent during the last 77 years. Fact that the central government is using all its resources and public money to stop or sabotage public works linked to national development indicates that the government at the center has other priorities than vital works for national development and prosperity. A logical question, therefore, what purpose is this government serving for the nation with the power and authority, the offices they control, since they are preoccupied with sabotaging public works of national interest? There can only be one obvious answer, and that is, the purpose of their remaining in power must be nothing else but self-enrichment. This is exactly what has been happening for the last 75 years under the pretext of serving parliamentary democracy. Now let us take a listen to the statement of Mr. Munish Sisodia on what he thinks is the most important factor for nation building. Mr. Sisodia has now been imprisoned for the last 2 years on shamelessly fabricated charges of occupation. His statement is a strong indicative of his visionary outlook on nation building, which is distinctly absent from those who are currently in the position of power. Since he is speaking in Hindi, we do not consider it useful to translate his statements into English. Here is Mr. Sisodia speaking.
हमारा मानना है कि एजुकेशन का इन्वेस्टमेंट देश के फ्यूचर के लिए सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट इन्वेस्टमेंट है और इसमें किसी को कोताही नहीं करनी चाहिए। जो सरकार देश के बच्चों में, देश के बच्चों के एजुकेशन में इन्वेस्ट करने से कतराती है, वो एक्चुअली देश का भविष्य बिगाड़ने की साजिश करती है। मैं आज एक बार फिर आपके सामने एजुकेशन पे बात करने के लिए आया हूँ और इस पूरे दावे के साथ, अथॉरिटी के साथ बात करने आया हूँ कि दिल्ली सरकार, केजरीवाल सरकार देश की एकमात्र सरकार है जो एजुकेशन को सरकार के काम में सबसे आगे लेके आई।
Here is yet another statement from Mr. Sisodia. Here he is explaining the importance of imparting education in Hindi, meaning mother tongue. Let me point out that the ideas of Mr. Sisodia seems to fit well with the viewpoints of world-renowned personalities like Rabindranath Tagore, Jagadish Chandra Bose, Satyendra Bose, C.V. Raman, etc. In the forum of Indian Parliament, where every second member has criminal record and every third one is semi-illiterate, great ideas of nation building is not likely to be admired or respected. Here is Mr. Sisodia speaking.
क्योंकि एक डॉक्टर के सामने एक पेशेंट जाता है, उसको तय है कि इसको कैंसर है, मुझे इसको जिंदा रखना है, इसके अंदर से ये निकालना है, फिर सारा ऑपरेशन वो इसलिए करता है। किसी की हड्डी टूट गई, वो हड्डी जोड़ के उसको चलाना है, दौड़ाना है। मैं पढ़ाने पे आऊं तो मेरे सामने बड़ा स्पष्ट है कि मैं अगर विज्ञान के अध्यापक से बात करूं, उसके सामने तय है कि विज्ञान का अध्यापक अपने बच्चे को विज्ञान पढ़ा रहा होता है और उसका लक्ष्य यह होता है कि अगर ये बच्चा विज्ञान ठीक से पढ़ गया तो आगे चल के एक अच्छा इंजीनियर, एक अच्छा डॉक्टर, एक अच्छा साइंटिस्ट, वैज्ञानिक बन सकता है। गणित पढ़ाने के पीछे भी हमारा लक्ष्य है, आगे आने वाले समय में ये अच्छा इंजीनियर, मैनेजर, एक अच्छा अकाउंटेंट, एक अच्छा चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट बन सकता है। हिंदी, और वो अपने बच्चों से कहता भी है, बेटा थोड़ी विज्ञान में मेहनत कर ले, तेरा इंजीनियर बनने का सपना पूरा हो जाएगा। बेटा थोड़ी गणित में मेहनत कर ले, तेरा कॉमर्स के फील्ड में या मैथमेटिक्स, फिजिक्स के फील्ड में तुम बहुत टॉप पे आगे जा सकते हो, यहां तक जा सकते हो, अच्छे नंबर आने चाहिए इसमें। हिंदी का अध्यापक अपने बच्चे से क्या बात करे? हिंदी का अध्यापक जो 6वीं, 7वीं, 8वीं, 9वीं, 10वीं, 11वीं के बच्चे को पढ़ा रहा है, वो क्या बात करे उससे कि हिंदी ठीक से पढ़ ले। अगर तू हिंदी ठीक से पढ़ लेगा तो तू कहां पहुंच जाएगा। हम उससे ये भी नहीं कह पाते कि तू हिंदी पढ़ ले, तू अच्छा साहित्यकार बन जाएगा। हम उससे ये भी नहीं कह सकते तू हिंदी पढ़ ले, अच्छा आलोचक बन जाएगा। ये एक बड़ा सवाल है, लेकिन क्योंकि हम इस सवाल का ठीक से जवाब नहीं दे पा रहे, मुझे इसमें एक बड़ा रस दिखता है। इसका मतलब हिंदी पढ़ाने का महात्म्य इतना छोटा नहीं है कि हम सिर्फ उसे कैरियर में बांध के किसी के सामने रखते हैं। ये हिंदी की महिमा है।
The degenerated government, healthcare and education system of Delhi has been restored to a world-class standard. It is the political leadership of Aam Aadmi Party that was instrumental in this restoration process. This achievement reveals an underlying remarkable political leadership and their highly advanced thought process which doesn't exist in the current political scenario of India. This accomplishment and its built-in thought process and political leadership has drawn the attention of masses throughout India. This political leadership has correctly perceived that the most valuable and most powerful resource of India is her massive marginalized population who sacrifice themselves but get nothing in return. those whose tears and blood have never been accounted for, those who never understood why they are pauperized despite being surrounded by affluence. It is these 95% marginalized population of India who dispatched this leadership to communicate their appeals to the whole society, and it is this marginalized population who gave voice and strength to this party. Aam Aadmi Party correctly realized that exposure of 140 crore population to this innovative system of education and healthcare has the potential to change the face of the earth. Those who have initiated a potential evolution in the sector of education and healthcare system of India, have they become hero of the nation? Have they been decorated with national honor? Has the entire nation rallied behind them to support? Has the central government extended all conceivable support and encouragement? Let it be known to one and all. Nothing, absolutely nothing like that has happened. On the contrary, the top leadership of Aam Aadmi Party are in prison, languishing in jail. Will the sitting government serve the public better in the sectors of health and education? The leadership of the central government has been ruling from Delhi for the last 10 years. During this period, the government appointed 4 education ministers. First one, a high school graduate and a film actress by profession, ran the ministry for 2 years. The second one had an undergraduate degree in commerce and was a bank employee, ran the ministry for 3 years. The third one supposedly had a master's degree from one of the universities in Kashmir. Interestingly, no information is available on his school or undergraduate education. He ran the ministry for 2 years. The fourth one has a master's degree in anthropology and currently in charge of the Ministry of Education. It is important to remember that those who are currently in charge of the central government is BJP party. Every second of their elected members are hardened criminals and every third one is semi-literate. The top leadership of Aam Aadmi Party has been incarcerated just to protect their own political interest, that is, political interest of BJP, on purely fabricated charges. The government-financed mainstream media is working overtime to project truth as false and false as truth. Hence, their main preoccupation now is to project Mr. Kejriwal and his entourage as guilty of corruption on purely fabricated charges. As mentioned before, agencies of the central government have been employed to make things difficult, if not impossible, for the party to work in the interest of people of India. The core leadership has already been taken into custody. The government has well-defined plans to even dissolve the party, which is growing so rapidly. In your own interest, think for a while what kind of society you are living in. Acquire the bare minimum knowledge to recognize who is there to protect your interest and who is not. Also think why you should bother to distinguish between your friend and foe. Decision is yours.